20 years ago, my dream to one day own a Bugatti was born, but it didn't really become real until about 5 years ago when I decided I'm gonna find a way to do it. And 3 or so years ago, I started making insultingly low offers, attempting to shrewdly negotiate with everybody who listed one for sale on Auto Tempest. But it wasn't really until the last few months where I got super serious. I sold the blue LP640, the GTC4 Lusso, the six-wheeled Range Rover, the Rolls-Royce from last year's US Express, and started to get liquid to try to make something happen. And there were a few cars that I had identified, and a month or so ago I made a video saying I'm going to buy a Bugatti. Now, to be honest, that was something that I kind of got from James the Stradman. Whenever he's shopping for his next hypercar, he'd make a series of videos with all the contenders, but I was only going to buy a Bugatti and it was only going to be a Veyron, so I didn't really know how to do that. I just thought I would. But to be honest, that's not something that I would just say if I didn't know that it was going to come true. And I had already generally agreed to the structure of the deal to buy a 2012 Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport from Abe at Bugatti Broward that they had on consignment, and it needed a lot of work. Some of the things that I could ignore, some of the things that I couldn't, and so it was going to take about a month for us to finish the deal. I also needed to have the wheels painted. They were badly painted black. A lot of the car had been painted black previously, and so it's my kind of car. I loved the celebrity history of the car, and a couple days ago, I made a video announcing that I had finally, after all these years, bought my Bugatti, and I could not be any happier. The video got to number 3 on trending in the US, and I cannot thank you guys enough for watching, sharing the thousands and thousands of comments and messages. It was an amazing day. Really the cap on an amazing couple of weeks now that I've had the car. So yes, I've had the car a couple of weeks. I had already made it back to Atlanta, and so it takes us a little while to put these videos together. But it was the most successful first 24 hours that a video on VINwiki has ever had. That would still be like the worst video of the year for Freddie, but to me, that was amazing, and I couldn't be any happier, and I couldn't be any more appreciative to the viewers and the sponsors that made this whole thing possible. So almost 2 weeks ago, I flew down from Atlanta to Miami, and the flight was disastrous. It was in the middle of the CrowdStrike outage and everything that was impacting Delta, which Atlanta's the hub, so you always fly Delta, and usually that makes it very, very easy, and usually everything's on time, but that was not the case. And ultimately, the trip that should have taken about 2.5 hours took 12 hours. And we had always talked about, between Freddie, Tyler, and myself, a car trek concept whenever I would get one of these cars that we would do the race against public transit, because obviously Jeremy Clarkson racing Hammond and May in the Veyron to take the truffle from Turin back to London was one of the coolest things I've ever watched in my entire life. So the opportunity to actually recreate that kind of Top Gear in Car Trek was something we wanted to do. But schedules didn't align. They've been super busy this year. Freddie is all over the world and in the midst of so many crazy projects that wouldn't happen. So my idea had kind of been, well, let's do the public transit part on the front end to just see how long it's going to take, which I thought was probably going to be like 7 to 8 hours when you count, getting a rental car, Ubering down to the airport. We didn't take a bus. That would be terrible in Atlanta, but that would be the way to really sandbag this thing and make it close. But I never thought it was going to be so much longer than I knew I could drive back from South Florida. So we ended up picking the car up the next morning. We go through all the nightmares that I discussed in the next video of check engine lights coming back and the hotel kicking us out and having to store the car at Curated, and it all went well. We shot a lot of great stuff with John and his team down at Curated, as well as with Matt Farah and Zach from the Smoking Tire. So a great, great week. Really just kind of like in awe that this actually happened. Kind of like a dog chasing a car that finally ends up catching up to it. I didn't really know what to do, but it was a really stressful week. Obviously, it's the most expensive thing I've ever bought, probably the most valuable thing that I'll ever own, and I'm beyond ecstatic. So I was going to be driving back that weekend. So again, the goal was to beat the public transit time and make it back to Atlanta faster than we'd been able to fly south. Usually that's about a 9 to 10 hour drive. I had no idea how the car was going to do. Now, we filmed a lot down in Florida. I had Adriel, one of our videographers, down there to help, and it was an amazing thing. But the drive home, I didn't shoot that much. I took a bunch of pictures, a few little clips, and honestly just had an awesome, quiet, reflective drive on the journey to get there. And you guys could see the joy in my face driving the car for the first time. That hasn't worn off, even as it occasionally missteps, but I've got to say, it is everything I ever wanted it to be, and the drive was remarkably easy. Now, I did not expect that. I've done the drive in every kind of car, including Lamborghinis and things like that, but the seats in the car are so comfortable. I fit in the car so beautifully. Top on, top off, I love it. The seats are out of a Bentley Super Sports, which I absolutely loved when I had one, a green one in Car Trek 8. And so I was super comfortable. I only had to stop twice. The thing consumes an insane amount of gasoline, but it has a gigantic tank, 26 gallons, so that was handy. But no, really uneventful. It rained a ton, which is a little bit sketch on the fairly worn and fairly old tires. I also want to shout out our sponsor for this video, the Ticket Clinic. Driving a Bugatti from Miami to Atlanta involves driving past a lot of law enforcement. And fortunately, even though it doesn't have laser dimmers and all this stuff, Waze did a pretty good job, and I did avoid tickets, but I haven't always. Along that same corridor, they write tickets like crazy through South Georgia. And whenever you get a ticket, you need to fight everyone. And the perfect partner in that fight is the Ticket Clinic. They can help you avoid insurance premium increases, points on your license, risk of suspension, jail time, everything that goes with a bad speeding ticket. They've got a nationwide network of attorneys that can help you fight a ticket no matter where you get it. So check them out now at the link in the description below to fight your ticket with the Ticket Clinic. They've done great work for me many times, but fortunately, no Bugatti tickets thus far. There's different moments in your purchase of a car, when you sign the paperwork, when you get it in your garage, when you put your license plate on it, and all of those are really meaningful to me, but just having it home, having it safe, it just was a really big deal. Now, it was gonna be a few days before we could release the video because there was a lot of footage to compile and things like that, and I went out to go ahead and get the car to pass Georgia emissions, which means driving it about a mile from my house, not a big deal. Afterwards, I went around the corner and parked the car at a place that I like to eat lunch, right along the street. It's wide open and easy, and I got to kind of just sit there and have some tacos and stare at my car. And I noticed people were driving by and taking pictures of it, but shortly after that, I got a Google alert to my name because somebody in the comments had responded to a thread on the Reddit Spotted page. So these are car spotters, in the same way that Doug DeMuro's Chasing Exotics page used to be 15, 20 years ago, whenever it was. Now, the post wasn't made with anybody that knew it was me, but many of the commenters very immediately thought, hey, that's in Ed's neck of the woods. He mentioned that car. Either he really missed out and one of his neighbors bought it, or Ed finally got his Bugatti. Now, of course, when you're trying to unveil something to the internet, you don't want it leaked early, but that tends to happen. Plenty of people had spotted me on the way home, tagged me in things and stuff like that. It usually doesn't go very far, but this thread was really gaining some traction. So even though I'd already generally bought the Bugatti when I said that I was going to buy a Bugatti, most of the commenters were like, this feels like clickbait, you didn't buy it yet. But my favorite one of all was a guy that said, Ed is buying a Bugatti in the same way that all of us are dying. It'll probably happen eventually, you just never know when. And that was true, but fortunately it wasn't too terribly far away. And the most amazing thing about the thread was not really that it got a lot of likes or upvotes or whatever they do on Reddit, but the scathing nature of all of the comments. Everyone, I don't mean like half or 75%, I mean everyone that commented absolutely hated the car. Now keep in mind, I had driven through a ton of rain and a long distance and I hadn't cleaned it up, so the car was dusty and filthy and covered in bugs, and it didn't look its best. It looks its best to me when it's that dirty, but I understand that it's a little bit strange. I also totally get that if you were speccing out a Bugatti 12 years ago and you took the John Ficarra approach that this can be read to absolutely everything, that could get a little bit strange. And the car does look a bit strange, but I like it. I love its celebrity provenance, and it is amazing. I love that it has those super sport wheels and the clear taillights, and yes, every single thing on the car is red. So I buy my cars for me. I can't make 30 videos about, a project car or anything in our normal VINwiki storytelling style. So there's always going to be a few stories about buying it and whatever it is, fixing it up, and then I'll use it, take it places, have adventures in it, and that'll sort of be the content of the car. So it doesn't actually matter if the internet likes it, but I am very entertained when they don't. And of course, the Redditors that commented had some amazing remarks, and I want to read some of them to you today. Somehow this car looks super dated. Not saying I wouldn't want one, but it looks older than it should. Not bad. Don't care for the red rims, but I don't have Bugatti money. Red doesn't really suit it, especially since it's red on red. I can understand that. I don't know how you have a terrible looking Bugatti, but they've figured it out. Somebody did. Well, they showed it off at the Frankfurt Motor Show. All that money and it still has body matched wheels. You hate to see it. That red looks like cheap plastic. Even without the matching wheels, it would look like they look like toys nowadays. Styling hasn't aged well. The Veyron styling really hasn't aged well. The backside of a Veyron is so ugly. It's not just mine, all of them it seems. Oof, that colorway is gross. Well, it's also fairly gross inside, but again, this car was filthy, and we're going to clean it up with the Glossit team soon. I wonder if he tipped well. I did. I love that place. Such an ugly car. That's the ugliest Veyron I've ever seen. What an awful looking car. I mean, it's a spectacular piece of engineering, but man, it looks like a Fiero body kit. Is it just me, or do paint mash wheels look awful on most cars? That's the ugliest one I've seen. I'm sorry they're so ugly. Fugly spec. The color is so ugly, in his opinion, and the opinion of everyone else, it seems. You'll notice I'm not having to specifically crop out these comments. They're all that nasty. Those wheels just flat out destroy the curb appeal of the car. But I didn't hit the curb, parallel parking it. Looks hideous. The single color, and especially the matching colored wheels, make this look like a kit car. Amazing how a simple paint job can drastically alter the look of an otherwise stunning, for the time, car. A lot of qualifiers there. Classic example of money can't buy taste. Those wheels are horrendous. Does anyone else not like how it looks? Those wheels are awful. Nah, my friend Ed would never do such a thing. That is actually insane. Oh, a positive one. Look at that. Thank you, Salmon Waffle. What's with the horrible spec? Looks very tacky. Lord, it's ugly. No plate on the public roadway. Tow it. Made it all the way home on that. This is Georgia. We don't worry so much about these things. That's almost an achievement, making it so unappealing. Man, these cars have quickly gone from top tier to I wouldn't even want it for free. So ugly. Disgustingly ugly. Had to go look at other pictures of Bugattis to make sure it wasn't fake. Looks very tacky. And Ed Bolian finally got it, huh? So yes, they did leak it early, but thankfully so many of you still thought it was worth watching the video, and I'll continue to make some Bugatti content. I'm not going to flood you with it, but I am having a great time going through the registration process, getting it all ready to go, and driving it as much as I possibly can. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for everybody who made this possible. Thank you for the nice people and the mean people alike. It's all engagement and it's all in good fun. And thank you to the Ticket Clinic for supporting this video and supporting the channel for so many years now. Driving a car like that on highways home, especially through South Georgia, you do need the Ticket Clinic, because every time you get a ticket, you need to fight them all. And the Ticket Clinic is the perfect partner in that fight. They make it easy because they can show up on your behalf, they can negotiate better outcomes, help you avoid costly fines, risk of suspension, points on your license, insurance prices going up, everything that you don't want when you own fun cars. So check them out now at the link in the description below to thank them for their support of VINwiki and fight your ticket with the Ticket Clinic.